Ask the Court, a program produced by the International Criminal Court. What are the charges presented by the prosecutor for each of the suspects in Case 1, meaning the case of the prosecutor versus William Samuel Ruto, Henry Kiporno Kosgei, and Joshua Harap Sang?
In the first case, in the Kenyan situation, the suspects are facing 3 charges of crimes against humanity, which are the charges of murder, forcible transfer of population, and persecution, with William Ruto and Henry Kosgei charged as alleged indirect co-perpetrators, and Joshua Sang charged as allegedly otherwise contributed to these crimes.
What are the charges presented by the prosecutor for each of the suspects in the second case, meaning the case of the prosecutor versus Francis Kirimi Mutaura, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and Mohammed Hussein Ali?
In the second case, in the Kenyan situation, the suspects are facing 5 charges of crimes against humanity, which are murder, rape and other forms of sexual violence, forcible transfer of population, persecution, and other inhuman acts, with Francis Mutura and Uhuru Kenyatta charged as alleged indirect co-perpetrators, and Muhammad Ali charged as otherwise contributed to these crimes.
Does the ICC target any ethnic community or a political party?
No, the ICC does not target any groups, any ethnic group, religious group, political parties, governments, or states. The ICC jurisdiction is only about individual criminal responsibility for the alleged conducts that individuals might have committed. The ICC prosecutor focuses on the persons that he suspects of being the highest responsible of the crimes against humanity, war crimes, or genocide, based on the evidence that he has gathered and without taking into consideration any official positions of these persons.
And what decisions could Pretrial Chamber 2 take at this stage of the proceedings with regard to the charges against the suspects?
Pretrial Chamber 2 is examining whether or not the prosecutor has sufficient evidence that justify that a trial takes place. The judges are examining whether or not there are substantial grounds to believe that each of the 6 suspects is responsible for the charges brought against him. In another word, the chamber may decide either to confirm all or part of the charges against all or some of the suspects. In this eventuality, the case will be committed to a trial before a trial chamber composed of 3 other judges for the charges that have been confirmed and against the persons for whom charges were confirmed. But the chamber may also decide not to confirm any of the charges. In this case, the proceedings stop, but that does not preclude the ICC prosecutor from asking anew the confirmation of these declined charges by presenting additional evidence. The chamber may also ask the prosecutor to present additional evidence or conduct further investigation or to amend the charges in case the evidence shows that a different crime from the crime alleged by the prosecutor has occurred.
Are Pretrial Chamber 2's decisions final?
No, both parties, meaning the prosecutor and the different defense teams, may ask the pretrial chamber for authorization to appeal some issues in their decision on the confirmation of charges. In this case, the appeal chamber may consider the issues as identified by Pretrial Chamber 2, but that does not mean that we will hold a second confirmation of charges hearing.
And will the decisions confirming or declining the charges be issued on the same date for both cases?
Yes, Pretrial Chamber 2 has indicated that both decisions will be issued on the same date. The judges reiterated their appeal to all Kenyans to refrain from engaging in any action that might endanger the security, the property, or the safety of any victim or witness, and to refrain from engaging into any action that might exacerbate the tensions or the violence in the country.
Are the suspects obligated to be in The Hague when the chamber issues its decisions?
No, the suspects are not required to be at The Hague when the judges will issue their decisions. They will be in any way notified by their defense counsel.
If the judges decide to commit a suspect to trial, does that mean that the suspect is guilty?
No, if charges are confirmed, the case will be committed to a trial before a trial chamber. Meanwhile, the defendant is and continues to be presumed innocent until guilt is proven after a trial beyond any reasonable doubt.
If the charges are confirmed against a suspect, will that person be kept in the custody of the court?
If charges are confirmed against any suspect, the suspect will remain free unless the judges order otherwise. However, the defendant will need to be present at The Hague for the trial when the trial will start, because the Rome Statute does not provide for any trial in the absence of the persons of the accused.
If the charges are not confirmed, would the suspects be compensated?
The Rome Statute provides for compensation only in case of an unlawful arrest or detention, or in the second eventuality, which is that there was a serious miscarriage of justice that led to a conviction of a person after a trial. Both eventualities does not apply for the Kenyan cases, since no suspect was arrested or detained, and since the cases are still at the pre-trial stage and not at the trial stage.
If the charges are confirmed against a suspect, and if the person has to face a trial, would that mean that he cannot be a candidate for elections in Kenya?
The questions of elections and of conditions for the eligibility of candidates is a matter for the Kenyan constitution and the Kenyan laws, and it's not governed by the Rome Statute. So it is for the national authorities in Kenya to give the interpretation and the application of the national law.
Can the court freeze the assets of the suspects?
The court may request the cooperation of a state for the purposes of tracing, identification, freezing or seizure of property and assets of any suspect. It is a preventive measure that forbids the person from disposing of what remains his property and assets. But it may be decided by the judges in order to ensure the implementation of their decisions on their reparations to victims if the person is found guilty after a trial.
If the charges are not confirmed, what would happen for the witnesses?
If the charges are not confirmed in the Kenyan cases, that means that the risks that witnesses are running will be drastically reduced. However, the ICC will take any necessary measures to manage the security situation of the witnesses, especially some witnesses that were granted with protective measures. But we need to recall that the protective measures and the protection that the ICC offers to witness are all the time related to risks that the witnesses may be running only because of their testimonies before the ICC. So if risks will continue after the decisions on the confirmation of charges, the ICC will continue providing any assistance or protective measures to these witnesses until the risks no longer exist.
Are victims who participate in the proceedings considered as witnesses?
No, victims and witnesses are different. Victims are persons who have suffered harm as a consequence of a crime under the jurisdiction of the court, while witnesses are persons who bring information and answer questions before the ICC judges. However, the victims may be authorized to participate in the proceedings before the ICC. That is usually via a lawyer, which we call the legal representative of the victims, who is entitled of presenting the personal views and concerns of the victims before the judges. But the victims are not required to come to The Hague and to answer the questions before the judges like witnesses. Also, the participation of victims is separate from the process of reparation. So the victims participating in the proceedings will not obtain any compensation or any reparation for this participation. The reparations can be decided only after a trial, and if a person is found guilty, then the judges may decide on the reparations to be offered to the victims.
If the charges are not confirmed, what would happen for victims that were granted the right to participate in proceedings?
The victims that were granted the right to participate in the proceedings may continue to participate in any proceedings with regard to the prosecutor's request to leave to appeal and eventually into the proceedings of the appeal. Also, the victims who were granted the right to participate may continue to participate without presenting additional applications if the prosecutor asks the chamber again to confirm the charges by presenting additional evidence and information. Otherwise, if the chamber decides to stay the proceedings, then the victims can no more participate. And in the absence of a trial, there will be no decisions on the reparations or any compensation form as well.
If the charges are confirmed and the case is conveyed to trial, will other persons be allowed to submit applications to participate as victims in the proceedings in each of the cases?
If the charges are confirmed and if a case is committed to a trial, then the victims who were granted the right to participate in this case will continue to be authorized to participate in the trial with regard to this specific case. But the ICC registry can also receive other applications for participation as victims in this case if it has been committed to a trial, and it would be for the trial chamber composed of 3 other judges to decide on each of these applications.